This fence is staying right where it is. Your unauthorized boat slip access is hereby revoked due to multiple violations.
The easement is legally binding.
The first time I realized the HOA had fenced me out, it was 6:12 a.m. on May 3, 2024, and my shoes crunched on fresh gravel like I was walking on broken teeth. Cold air cut through my hoodie. A contractor truck idled with flashing amber lights, and the whole place smelled like wet asphalt and burned coffee. I rounded the corner to the lake access sidewalk I'd used for years, and there it was, a brand new black metal fence with a padlock the size of my fist. A laminated sign flapped in the wind, private dock entry. Boat passes sold at clubhouse. I stood there blinking like an idiot, watching the sunrise hit the water I suddenly couldn't reach. Then Karen, yes, that Karen, stepped out like she'd been waiting for applause, smiled too wide, and said, "Sorry, sweetie. Rules changed." By 9 a.m., I had 3 neighbors texting me pictures of the same fence from different angles, like we were documenting a crime scene. I walked straight to the clubhouse, palms sweating, trying to stay calm. I even rehearsed polite words. When Karen saw me, she did that fake sad face, the one people use right before they take something from you. I said, "This is crazy. That sidewalk is how we get to the lake." She said, "The board voted. Liability. Also, we're improving amenities." Then she slid a little flyer across the counter with prices written in fat marker. Day pass, $50. Weekend, $120. Season, $400. That's when it hit me, this wasn't safety. This was a cash grab. I finally said the full sentence out loud, like it was a confession. HOA fenced off my lake access sidewalk to sell boat passes, that I pulled the easement. And I meant every word. I tried the reasonable route first, because I'm not trying to be anyone's villain. I emailed the board the same day and asked for the vote record. No reply. I knocked on Karen's door at 7:30 p.m., and she didn't answer even though I heard her TV. The next meeting, people sat stiff in folding chairs like they were scared to breathe wrong. One guy wouldn't even make eye contact with me. I stood up and said, "This affects families. Kids. Elderly folks. It's a public sidewalk." Karen cut me off with a smile and said, "You're being emotional." Another board member stared at his laptop like it was a life raft. Someone whispered, "Don't push her. She calls the cops." Then Karen banged the little gavel like she was a judge and said, "Next topic." And just like that, they dismissed me like I was a bad smell. That was my line in the sand. I went home, made a grilled cheese I didn't even taste, and stared at the fence photos until my eyes burned. I promised myself I would use proper channels only. No cutting locks. No midnight drama. Just truth and paperwork. The next morning, April 5th popped into my head because that was the day Karen started acting bold, and I started writing everything down. I made a timeline on my kitchen table with a cheap notebook and a red pen. Timeline item 1, April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. That was the night a police officer rang my bell because someone reported I was sneaking onto the dock. I wasn't. I was asleep in gym shorts. Timeline item 2, May 3rd at 6:12 a.m. fence installed. Timeline item 3, May 4th at 11:18 a.m. HOA starts selling passes. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Petty? Maybe. But it felt like armor. On May 6th, I walked into the county records office, and the place smelled like copier toner and old paper. I asked for plats and easements for our neighborhood and the lakefront strip. The clerk didn't blink, she'd seen it all. 40 minutes later, the file landed with 63 pages, and my stomach did this slow flip. Right there, in black and white, was a recorded easement for pedestrian access along that exact sidewalk, filed decades ago, tied to the original development permits. It wasn't optional. It wasn't a perk. It was a legal right attached to the land. I paid for certified copies, drove home, and sent a calm email to the board with the easement page highlighted. Karen replied in 10 minutes, all caps, telling me to stop harassing volunteers. That's when I forwarded everything to the city code office and the county council line. And I added one simple note: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. The payoff hit on May 14 at 6:30 p.m. at the monthly HOA meeting, in front of a packed room and about 12 phones held up like periscopes. Karen walked in wearing a blazer like she was about to host a game show. She opened with a speech about community standards, then tried to jump straight to votes. I raised my hand and said, "I have one item." She smirked and said, "Make it quick." I stood, set my binder on the table with a loud thump, and slid the certified easement copy toward her. Her eyes flicked down, then back up, and the color drained from her face like someone pulled a plug. At that exact moment, the door opened and a city inspector walked in with a badge and a clipboard. He said, "I'm here about the illegal obstruction and unpermitted fence on recorded access." The room made this sound, half gasp, half laugh. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, he brought receipts." Karen tried to talk her way out like she always did. She said, "It's private property, and he's just mad he can't get a free ride." The inspector didn't even flinch. He explained, slow and plain, that an easement means you can't block access, even if you own the land. Then a police officer stepped in behind him, because, surprise, code enforcement asked for backup. The officer looked at Karen and said they also had notes about multiple trespass complaints coming from her number. The neighbors started murmuring louder. One teen snorted laughing. A mom whispered, "She really called the cops on people walking to the lake?" Karen's voice shook as she said, "I was protecting the community." The officer replied, "False reports waste resources, ma'am." The inspector handed her a notice with a deadline to remove the fence and a fine amount that made people's eyebrows jump. Later I heard it was over $2,000, plus permit penalties. By May 18, the fence was gone. Not later, not soon. Gone. The workers hauled it away while neighbors stood on their porches like it was a parade. Someone played music from a phone. I walked down the sidewalk at 7:05 a.m., and the lake breeze hit my face like a reward. A few people clapped when I reached the water, and I almost laughed because it was so dumb and so perfect. The HOA had to refund every boat pass they sold, dozens of them. Karen stepped down for personal reasons, which is HOA language for "we got caught." The board sent a stiff email apologizing for confusion, and the new president actually waved at me like a human being. A week later, the neighborhood kids were back skipping rocks, and an older neighbor thanked me with a box of donuts, warm and sugary, like peace you can taste. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.